This 1 hour session or a bit more is around the topic of threat hunting and Yara rules. We hope you will enjoy this session. There is a second training session that will be happening in the next few weeks, and the invitation for that second training session will be going out in the next 2 days. After today's session, there will also be a poll asking if you would like to have a follow-up call with one of our experts, one of the Kaspersky experts. So let's go ahead. First things first, my name is Amin Hasbini, and I am a member of the Global Research and Analysis team within Kaspersky. We are a team at the core of R&D inside Kaspersky, and our role is to investigate and hunt for the latest methods and techniques used by attackers all around the world. We try to keep our clients safe from some of the most sophisticated attackers. And the Global Research and Analysis team is a small team. We only count around 45 people inside the company, which counts more than 4,000 now. And we are well distributed around the world and in the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa region too, in order to better understand threats, cyber threats, and better fight against attackers. So our agenda for today, we will start with a little bit of theory around threat hunting. What is threat hunting, how it could be done, and like high-level description of the steps that need to be established in order for threat hunting to happen. It'll be quick. Then we will move to Yara rules. We will discuss what are Yara rules and how Yara rules work and what are they useful for, etc., etc. There will be some exercises. We can't spend too much time on them. However, like this session is being recorded, and then we can share the slides, and you can do and repeat everything at your pace. All right, so about our love for threat hunting and Yara rules. Well, we believe Yara rules is the cybersecurity researchers' Ferrari. And we have been spreading our love to Yara since 2016. That was during the SAS training. So the Security Analyst Summit, which is a conference organized on an annual basis by Kaspersky, and where top research is published on the latest threats and internet issues. Following the current situation and circumstances, we have considered going online with the training, and now it is fully available online with fully online delivery. And this short webinar is not a full Yara rules training. It's very short for so, and this is an introduction to this training. So next training, which is ASC2021, will be happening this year, September, in Barcelona. It will be a hybrid event. So half online, half on-site for those who can be there safely, of course. So let's start with a little bit of explanation and description of what is threat hunting and what it isn't, because that's very important. Well, threat hunting is around what? Finding threats, right? Finding problems, finding suspicious activities, unusual, uncommon, unruly, unstandard behavior inside an organization. And to do so, we need visibility, right? So to do so, we need to start generating logs on the different systems. Different systems have different kinds of logs, and then collecting these logs into a centralized space where such logs could be searched and analyzed. And this is closer to big data analytics. Some organizations do this for a huge amount of logs, and which could go into terabytes of data, of text. And then searching this data becomes a little bit problematic, of course. So hence the tools that are needed in order to achieve such. Adversary modeling, every organization has a unique threat model. Every organization has a unique set of enemies. And every organization has like a specific industry in a specific location with specific competitors. So every organization is different. In a particular organization, they could have, for example, 5 or 10 attackers that are highly interested in them. And so these attackers will start developing tools and techniques in order to better understand the organization, understand the employees of the organization, try to recon what is happening in the organization, what software and tools, what programs and servers do they have, what users do they have, and then try to abuse these. So adversary modeling is very important because it allows for a better understanding of who is my enemy. And who is my enemy is important because then I can try to, if you know your enemy, you know yourself. That's Sun Tzu, and then of course you can act on it. You can start with a planning for your attackers' next steps. Identify threats and diffuse them. Of course, when you start threat hunting, and it happens all the time, you will start seeing suspicious activities. Sometimes they are not fully malicious. They are just preparations for an attack. And then you can even diffuse these. You can block these from even happening. You don't want people even doing reconnaissance on your networks, on your public spaces and servers, etc. Continuously, you will need to update and adapt scripts and your data and your knowledge. It's like having a library inside an organization. Having a library so this is the identity of our organization, and this is the books of different attackers that are trying to target us, have previously targeted us, and then we are writing these books because we are discovering what attackers are trying to do with our organization, or maybe what they have done at other similar organizations such as ours, and they might try at our premises. Then, of course, repeat. So that's the cycle. You collect the data, you generate the data, the logs, you collect them, you have an understanding of your attackers, then you try to search for traces around these attackers, you identify the threats, diffuse them, and update your library. So let's dive deeper. How do you collect data from different sources? Well, every organization has different systems, of course, appliances, network, logs. Sometimes it could be syslogs, syslog on those machines. Sometimes you could collect event logs. Sometimes you might run sysmon. Sometimes you might take snapshots from memory, from the registry. Sometimes you might monitor user behavior or privileged accounts, of course. And sometimes you can even collect telemetry. from, for example, the antivirus or the endpoint security, or from the Windows itself, etc., etc. Some organizations go a little bit further into the physical environment. So they collect logs from scanners, from Wi-Fi, Bluetooth scanners, and they try to alert or better understand when something happens in the physical environment around the organization in order to better fight against cyber threats. Data storage and analytics. So once you have all of the logs from all of the systems in a single place, you have an issue, which is how do I analyze this data? Like we need analysis that is text compatible. So I need to search for text, for example, and I need to search for patterns, regex, regular expressions, or something like that. And then, of course, there are multiple solutions like ELK, like Elasticsearch. And then it depends on the solution that you have. However, you can do search, you can correlate events. So if you see this event log on system 1 plus this network traffic on router 2 plus this web traffic on router 4 plus, I don't know, some incident with the jammer detections or like Wi-Fi scanners, alert, for example, or send an SMS or that something is very suspicious. See, you start to build these patterns that represent an attack on a particular organization, and this is threat hunting. It's all about automation in order to alert on suspicious behavior. And again, it is particular for each organization. It is unique for each organization, mainly because every organization has different systems and different kinds of data and different priorities and different industry, etc., etc. Let's go ahead. Adversary modeling. There are different methods for doing adversary modeling. We can start looking at different kinds of models. One of them is an attack group-based hunting. And you probably know about APTs, advanced persistent threats, like I don't know, I can mention like some that are very active in the region, like some Lazarus, some pandas, some oil rig, muddy water, some strong pity, I don't know, some stealth falcon, there are so many that are at some Turla, some Sophacy, some Lamberts. So these are all advanced persistent threats, APT groups that are very, very active in the region. And then you can start focusing on an attacker portfolio, see and track what they are doing, what is the latest threat intelligence on them, etc., etc. You can look at adversaries in a different manner too. So you can look at adversaries as behavior. And there we can see event correlation based hunting. So if you see these events on these systems, then this is an indicator of this attacker. If you see this file on any of our systems, then this is an indicator of this attack methods, etc. TTP based, so this is very similar to event correlation tactics and procedures. So again, it's a behavior based hunting, which could fall into multiple groups. So 5 groups could be using similar TTPs. However, that's not always the case. So again, it's different methods for different uses. IOC-based hunting is when you hunt based on indicators of compromise. And indicators of compromise, of course, allow for the detection of files or IP addresses or domains that are used by the attackers or maybe have been used previously by the attackers. therefore, which allows you to identify if something happened at your premises. Asset-based hunting, some organizations, part of their data classification or the asset classification efforts, they identify priority servers and services, and then monitoring, more monitoring is important on these assets, and that of course allows for a better understanding of your environment, and then of course for hunting or monitoring of the most important assets inside your organization. User-based and department-based hunting, we even see some companies doing that. So some employees inside your organization may be prone to more attacks, such as HR departments, finance departments, secretaries. They are usually, and in many cases, entry points for the whole organization, sadly. And because their work is not is far from cybersecurity, that does not mean that they should be far mentally from cybersecurity. And this is, of course, where like awareness trainings are very important. However, we still see them targeted and more than others. Well, so what do we do? Which method should we adopt? Well, hybrid hunting is the answer. So it's very important to mix and match as an organization sees fits and as an organization sees like important for them. And of course, lots of automation. You cannot look into event logs. Let me see if this event happened on here and then another event happened in here. Manually, this takes a lot of time. So automation is key for such activities. Good documentation is another answer, and good documentation is very important for any organization and any system. And here we talk about, especially for automation, and automation needs to identify like good needs to have the good documentation for continuity in order for people to be able to work with other people's rules or succeed each other in threat hunting for an organization. All right, so deception techniques, log triggers. Some organizations are also planting fake services and servers inside their organization, inside their networks, and inside their data centers. And then everything that touches such servers and services is suspicious and is prone to an alert, a big alert, of course, because it's not only about outside attackers, it's also about internal attackers and internal employees that could be suspicious. Identify threats and diffuse them. So threat hunting is not DFIR or is not like IT security management, etc., etc. Threat hunting needs to cooperate with other teams and needs to cooperate with. Sometimes it could be part of the DFIR team or the SOC, etc. However, there are separate processes and procedures in place, and we need to invoke such processes and procedures when needed, when something is found, when an alert is registered. Collect finding from different sources. That's very important too. Once an investigation is over, we need to collect the data from the different sources and then better understand what happened, like from the different sides. We need to analyze malware, scripts, and binaries with the different methods, and then we need to correlate this activity with what we have seen before. This is very important. What is the chance that the attacker that has targeted you is a new attacker? or a new group of attackers. There is very little chance that is the case. And then you need to understand, that these attack groups have a history and they use similar methods and techniques everywhere they go. And that is at the core of this threat hunt, because if you know what kind of attackers target you, then you will know what kind of attackers, what these attackers will look for, and what will they try to do next. All right. Updating scripts, TTPs, and IOCs, of course, we did mention that. Update your Yara rules and stick signatures, update your automation, and then, of course, send an intelligence briefing to upper management. Very important. When an incident happens, like, people in the company should know, because that's their only view on threats and danger to their own business and to their priorities. So threat hunting, again, is not system administration. So if a threat hunter identifies an error, it should happening on some system or some policy weaknesses, he can alert on these. However, different processes need to be in place for fixing these issues. It's not penetration testing too, so a threat hunter will not be scanning at the same time as threat hunting. And it's not, of course, forensics, DFIR, so or disaster recovery, as we previously mentioned. It could be the same groups, however, these need to be separate processes and procedures. Common tools, well, it's not about paid tools in most cases. It is about tools that are available and that need hands-on experience. So you can see here mostly Unix tools that could be imported onto Windows. However, it depends. You can probably find other kinds of tools too, like that could work too. So these are for collecting, for example, logs or traffic, like Wireshark, T-Shark, for finding some logs, for grabbing into syslogs, etc. So again, it depends on each organization and its capabilities and its employees, its skilled employees. That's the case here. Elasticsearch is an important tool that could be used too for digging into the data, searching into the data. However, there are other solutions as well. So feel free to look them up online. So top threat hunting methods. Threat hunting is not worth it. A lot of organizations still do not believe in threat hunting and do not understand threat hunting for what it is. And it's just a matter of time. This is a new domain, and it's just a matter of time before they get convinced, I guess. Maybe closer to the next incident, sadly. A lot of organizations have to fall for the trap in order, sadly. Yeah, but this is why we're here. We're trying to avoid these mistakes, right? So EDR is threat hunting. No, EDR is not threat hunting. EDR is a tool that helps in threat hunting. However, it's not sufficient, and usually it is difficult to do everything in a single EDR solution. Threat hunting is too complicated. That's not correct too. And threat hunting relies on automation tools, and it's a slow, though it's a continuous effort in order to better structure threat hunting for an organization and build slowly this library that we have discussed. Threat hunting is too expensive. Another myth. And threat hunting is not too expensive. You can go expensive. However, like the tools that we have mentioned before, they are all free and available for anyone. And collecting logs, it's free. and generating logs, it's free. So it's all there at your premises. You just need to put in some effort in order to achieve your objectives. So now it's time to dive into Yara rules. So these are pretty basic. We want to make sure that we can cover all kinds of audience here. Obviously, when you want to write Yara rules, you want to have Yara on your system, right? And more about that later in the session. However, more recommended tools to use with Yara is, for example, the strings analyzer, which is to identify strings inside the file, very, very popular. PE structure, like file structure viewer, Hue, Farbindef are really nice too. Some people also rely on static analysis tools like IDA Pro and Ghidra, but these are optional really. They could be very useful. However, you don't need them to write Yara rules. Obviously, the knowledge of like malware analysis and reverse engineering is really helpful. However, they are not a necessity. All right, so recommended manuals. There are different manuals for looking into the documentation for Yara rules. Some official, some are not. And then feel free to dive there as you see fit. Yara was originally developed by Victor Alvarez from VirusTotal, and he is now with Google. It was developed with the idea to describe patterns so as to classify strings or entire families of malware. So they created VirusTotal, and Yara was used on VirusTotal in the beginning to hunt for special malware files. And then, of course, it was made later available to the public. There are multiple versions, but you can easily fetch the source code or precompiled binaries from, like for other platforms, from popular repositories. Personally, I've created my own. I have created my own Yara version for Linux. Like I try to optimize performance and efficiency, and add modules as needed. So, in case you never saw a Yara rule before, well, this is how it looks. This is a very basic example that is called Welcome to our webinar. You can see three main sections in here. The meta section, which describes the rule. So you can see rule and rule name. The meta section, meta 2 points, which describes the rule. And then, of course, you can see the strings section, which includes the conditions that we will be trying to search for. Find funny and imaginary. So you can see description, rule to find real friends. We will try to search for strings kind, funny, and imaginary, and add modules as needed. So, in case you never saw a Yara rule before, well, this is how it looks. This is a very basic example that is called Welcome to our webinar. You can see three main sections in here. The meta section, which describes the rule. So you can see rule and rule name. The meta section, meta 2 points, which describes the rule. And then, of course, you can see the strings section, which includes the conditions that we will be trying to search for. Find funny and imaginary. So you can see description, rule to find real friends. We will try to search for strings kind, funny, and imaginary. And then for the conditions, when if matched, will trigger the Yara rule detection. condition $A and $B and not $C. We want someone who is kind and funny, but not imaginary. So as you see in this rule, it is a rule that is to find real friends. And to find real friends, you need to be kind and funny, not imaginary. Typical examples of how programmers and researchers try to find friends. Not sure it is working well for them, to be honest. At least that's my feedback. All right, next. So no, the metadata section in a rule is not obligatory. However, it is highly recommended for you to include any descriptive details inside your rules because it will help you later on identify what was the rule about and what is it that you were hunting. And if someone sees this rule, they know who wrote it, and if they need help, they can contact you, right? So this is for the metadata section. There are different parameters in there. There are also multiple ways that can be used to define strings in Yara, but we are not able to spend much time on these now. You can read about them in the documentation or follow the full, I'd recommend following the full training if you can. Next, for the conditions. The conditions are very, very important too, and they allow to define when a Yara rule will trigger. At first, it is quite important to check file headers to identify if this is the kind of files we are looking for, like an executable or like a Word document, etc. For example, executable files always need to start with the string MZ, all right, with an MZ header. Every exe file starts, like a Windows exe file, always starts with MZ. MZ are the initials of one of the employees at Microsoft back in the days, Mark Zibowski, and he was one of the leading developers of MS-DOS. And the same header still applies for Windows executables today. Same thing since ever. So there are several ways we can search for MZ in a file. Some are faster than others. Some people would just search for the string MZ in a file using $MZ, right? Which points to the string that contains MZ, which is okay. However, it's not a very good idea because the rule will be scanning for the string MZ inside all of the binary or the file that we're looking for. What we want to do, which is not a very good idea, what we want to do is use, as in the second line here in this slide, uint of 0, so address equal 0x5a4d. 5a4d is stands for MZ reversed, obviously. So there are versions of the same thing for Mac and ELF binaries. They also start with some specific header that we can search for. All right, as you can see in the examples down. We can also look for string count. We can also look for file size. So there are different things, very interesting things that we can do. There are a big number of conditions possible. We don't want to spend too much time on the theory. You can read about these in the Yara manuals and experiment as you like. So what can we do with Yara? So one of the most important questions about Yara is, what do I do with it? We can use Yara for multiple things, like identifying a malware family, finding 0 days, hunting for files on the network. There is also a tool called Yara PCAP, which allows you to scan CAP files, network dumps. Basically, it extracts and deflates HTTP streams to scan them with your Yara rules. You can also build some kind of your own antivirus using Yara rules. If you feel that is important for you, you can do it. Then, of course, my colleague in the team, Vitaly Kamluk, has used Yara to create a presentation with slides, which was quite unique. He also played Doom using Yara in ASCII, which was insane. I encourage you to look at the YouTube videos. Just Google Vitaly plus Yara plus Doom, and you will see him there in the video. So that was quite a thing too. So he presented that at the Security Analyst Summit too, like a few years back. So who uses Yara? Why is Yara important? So you might say, not many organizations use Yara. Well, to be honest with you, you'd be surprised to know that a lot of organizations are using Yara these days, whether they know it or not. A lot of security teams use Yara. Actually, it's not a security team until they start using, unless they're using Yara. Security vendors like are developing tools that are based on Yara, like I don't know, like our own anti-targeted attacks protection. You would be surprised to know that even spyware developers were spotted using Yara back in the days. This is very old. This is 2013. The hacking team was using Yara on VirusTotal because they were searching for their own malware. So if one of their victims uploaded malware files to VirusTotal, they will be notified. They will know who uploaded their binaries. And then, of course, they can take measures. They know that one of their attacks got exposed and is being investigated, and therefore maybe they should shut down their infrastructure. So design tips, very important too. You need to think of Yara like a programming language. It's not like a regex, a regular expression kind of search. You need to create nice code that is easy to see, easy to read, with nice descriptions. Again, it's not obligatory. However, it would be really nice for later on. Quick hack rules can be okay, but then in a year or two, you won't be able to know what to do with it. And then, of course, others will also definitely not be able to know what this is, where did it come from, who wrote it, what malware, etc., etc. Naming convention, rule, APT _ potential threat actor country, threat actor name, for example, Winty, and stolen search. So this is the naming convention that we use for our own Yara rules. As you can see, so it detects an APT, which is Winty, and the possible language in the malware is Chinese. The threat actor, and then some particular details about the detection. So in this case, it was a stolen certificate, which was used by this threat actor for code signing. So again, descriptive. Be descriptive. This is the Yara rule that we were talking about. So rule APTCN Winty stolen cert. You can see it was created, like you can see the meta description. Author Kosten Rayu, which is the director of my team, the global research and analysis team. Type APT, advanced persistent threat. File type Win32xe. The detection was created, or this Yara rule was created in 2015. You can see some reference to public secure list, so our research portal, and then the MD5 of the file that was used to create this Yara rule. You can see the matching strings, so $A1 and $A2 for the thumbprint. You can see in the condition, we're matching an MZ file, uint of 16 of 0x5A4D, file size less than 5 megabytes, and any of the strings mentioned above. All right, so example of things to search for. With Yara, you can search for so many things and so many possible options. It depends on you. Be creative. You can look for code stamps, timestamps, PDB paths, API calls. Sometimes we find coding errors that we can hunt for. Formatting. Some attackers use, for example, specific compilers, some weird compilers. We can also include that in our search. Public source code sometimes is used in malware, so we can include that. We can search for their routines for obfuscation, for encryption, for communication with servers, any kind of functionality inside a malware or inside like in one of the attacker's techniques could be useful for hunting this attacker. When an attacker decides to send you a specific malware, they have sent you their library. They have sent you a malware file that is compiled on a specific system in a specific environment. They have sent you a malware file that is coded in a certain manner with a certain compiler, with a certain code language. They have sent you a malware that connects to their infrastructure, to their URLs or to some other places in a different manner. They could use some encryption and obfuscation techniques. It's a library that you can use to search and hunt. So exercise number 1. This is one of my Yara rules from 2016. So question here is, what is wrong with this Yara rule? Well, a lot is wrong with this Yara rule, and this is how I used to create Yara rules. I don't create Yara rules like this anymore, I promise. However, this Yara rule works. And back in the days, I used it to hunt one of the news beef samples. So this was related to investigations on Stone Drill, which is a wiper and espionage malware. And in this malware files, we have found communication with command and control center happening via this username and password. And then, so these were embedded inside the malware file. You can see them in string 0. We also found a PDB path inside the malware files, which included this string xman _1365_x. And then we also included these into our hunt for this attacker. Here, it's a bad rule because the documentation is not well descriptive. The rule name is not very well descriptive neither. You can see the strings are not commented to, so we don't know. I've told you the story now because I've written this rule and know it very well. However, there are many other rules where I do not remember what happened before, like from years before. And in the conditions you can see here, I'm just matching everything, any of them, which is not a very good idea too. We have seen we can search for an MZ to be more efficient. We can look for specific file sizes, etc., etc. Let's go ahead. So a Yara rule that finds Yara rules. This is interesting. This is another exercise. We'll take not 5 minutes, but we'll take a few minutes, and then you can even do this on your own later on. Ping us if you need any help or if something goes wrong. I think I have the solution in the next slide. However, let's try to do this. If I need a Yara rule that finds other Yara rules, what does my Yara rule have to include? What strings? What conditions? 2 minutes. All right, so I think we can go ahead now to look at the solution for this exercise. So as you can see, a Yara rule will look for, you will look for rule, for example, which like every Yara rule needs to start with rule. We can look for strings, the strings. We can look for the condition and condition all of them, for example, because we are looking for Yara rules. So these are text files. They don't have a header or a specific size. However, it could be useful. Like not many Yara rules will go further than 300 kilobytes, and then we can look, if you look, like some researchers keep all of their Yara rules in a single file, and then some of these could be like 10 megabytes of text, which is crazy. However, they are very valuable if you can find them. Very good, very good. I see someone almost got it. Well, you have to practice, I guess. So let's take another example. Let's get a bit more sophisticated. We have two 64-bit samples. They are for equations triple fantasy. So this is one of the like top APTs in the region and worldwide. And you can see here the hashes of these of two of their samples. We need to find something very unique, unusual around these samples, and we don't want to do reverse engineering. So this exercise we will do together. And here, for example, you can see some of the, like this is the PE file structure. This is the metadata of the file. We can see that AMD64, so these binaries work on AMD64, which is interesting. And we can see the compilation date at January, you can see it on the right side of the screen, June 2000, the year 2000, and then for the other file it's January 1999. However, we realized that, and you can see the screenshot from Wikipedia, on April 30, Microsoft released Windows XP 64 edition for AMD 64 and EMT64T processors. So we can conclude that these compilation timestamps, as we see, June 2000 and January 1999, they are fake. So the attackers are creating files, binaries with fake compilation dates, timestamps, and these are for AMD64. And they are creating these timestamps before Microsoft even started supporting AMD64, right? Crazy. Let's try to create a Yara rule on that. So you can see rule, suspicious to old x64 PE samples, where in the first line in the condition, you int 0 5A4D, that's we're matching an MZ. So these are executables, Microsoft Windows executables. And then we are, you can see here, at the beginning, we are importing PE, so the PE library. So we can search for the PE metadata. And you can see here pe.machine equals pe.machine underscore AMD64. So again, we're looking for binaries that work for AMD64 or the IA64 machines. And we can see here, and PE timestamp larger than 631155661, which stands for 1990, and PE timestamp less than the year 2004. So that's when Microsoft started supporting AMD64 binaries. So we are looking for binaries that work for AMD64, but they have a timestamp before Microsoft started supporting AMD64. And then at the end, we put in a condition, file size less than 200, that's 2 million, that's 2 megabytes. So that's how we were able to find equations, new malware files, and hunt for their attacks without doing, for example, in this case, without needing reverse engineering. Hence, for Yara top performance, if you want to run Yara rules, you need to make sure these scanners will run with good performance. So if you have an SSD on your machine, it makes sense to use the -P setting. You can change that as needed. It could help you identify like some really good and better performance. You have to play with the settings. It depends on your environment. It does not work, for example, for like classical hard disk drive. If you want to scan logs and quick, you need some really good hard disks. I think you already know that. On our side, for example, one of the cases that we have used for best performance, you can see SSDs in RAID 0, so running in parallel, and for 1 terabyte like Samsung Evo disks, you can do much better than this right now, and it doesn't cost much. Now hard disks have a throughput up to 4 gig each. I was looking the last day, so if you want to have 4 in RAID 0, you're touching the 16 gigabytes per second, which is amazing. And of course, you will need to run Yara with the maximum speed possible, which is with -P32, 32 threads. SSD wear is not an issue. You don't need to worry because you're not writing on these SSDs, you're reading. And then, of course, that does not cause wearing or wear to your SSDs. Last but not least, the Yara rules and some more tools. Welcome to the Yara Club. There are no rules for rules. If you have a rule that works, then it is good enough. We only show you how we do it. You are free to choose your way, of course. And some more tools, scanning compressed files. You can do that. It's generally a bad idea. However, sometimes you cannot avoid it. Sometimes you also need to scan for network traffic, for example. So you need to deflate, we did mention HTTP streams, maybe extract files from them and decompress them like zip or etc. And there are different tools online that are not paid that you can use, of course. And you need to make sure that you are aware that when you are increasingly using modules and software wraps around Yara, things will become slower. All right, so Yara, clean run, fastest possible, with modules, slower, with some scanning, like decompression, slower, etc., etc. You're just adding more work, and then it takes more time. Automatic Yara rules generators, we even have that, and it's all available in the public. Yara rules generators, the one by Florian Roth is like very popular. Sorry, the latest update is not in 2017. I'm not sure. I think there was another update later on. And in our opinion, this is the best generator for Yara rules. It works very well, and it is able to find unique strings inside malware binaries or collections of malware binaries that are hunt friendly and that do not generate false positives. We did not talk about false positives. Stay away from false positives. Of course, we cannot match everything, because some strings that you can find interesting inside a malware file, they could be common into other whitelisted files, like clean files. And then that, if you detect these and then generate a DFIR for a Microsoft executable, you will get in trouble. So yeah, we need to avoid that. Or your scan will be wrecked. So you will have tons of matches. You will be scanning and then getting 500,000 files matching your Yara rule, and that's definitely a bad indicator. With that, we come to the end of our session. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd like to wish you very good luck in pursuing your threat hunting experience and mission. If you, we do have a full Yara training by Costin Rayo, which is like the full thing. And just let us know if you need any help. Sometimes you would be like in your organization and you find something malicious. Also, we can help with that, so don't hesitate. Sometimes we can even help you as researchers. So to for example, identify. So you find a malware, you analyze it, but you don't know its identity. So get in touch. Don't hesitate. We can do this with ease. You can search. We can search our databases. We can search we have like very large repositories of malware binaries, petabytes of data that we can hunt in, and we can identify. We can tell you, oh, this is the attacker. This is where they have been before. These are the new techniques they are using. And that's usually very helpful for any organization. Again, good luck. Thank you. And bye-bye.